Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be part of the 8th Beneficial Microbes Conference. Even though this year it's held virtually, I truly believe it's still a great opportunity for valuable and interesting exchanges. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to take you through one of the most new and promising area of research on microbiota, the gut-brain axis. It's important bidirectional connection, and I will try to show you how important it is for the improvement of health well-being. Health well-being can be defined as the state of physical and mental health and happiness resulting from the preponderance of pleasant versus unpleasant feelings. And in the next slide, I'm gonna try to answer to the question, which is indeed the implication of the gut and its microbiota in the achievement and improvement of health well-being. Let's start from the gut. The digestive tract of all animals, dog and cat included, harbor a vast and complex community of microorganisms, the so-called microbiota. The microbiota, it is present throughout the gastrointestinal tract, reaching the highest concentration in the colon. As you can see here, the phyla in the colon of both dog and cat are mainly the same, but of course they differ in proportion. Bacteria are 98% of such a population, but what is important to remind is that the microbiota is a dynamic system. It means that it really varies within the same individual, but also between individuals. So it's a kind of fingerprint. Each individual has a unique microbiota. In terms of functioning, the microbiota has three main functions which are crucial to ensure the maintenance of the overall health of the gastrointestinal tract. First of all, a metabolic function providing beneficial nutrients to the host via fermentative and metabolic activity. A protective function being a driver of host immunity. And a structural function, last but not least, helping in developing a healthy gut epithelium. Thanks to these three functions and their interconnection, a healthy gut microbiota is able to ensure antimicrobial secretion to the host, but also being a source of energy. They are able also to somehow support the immune response of the host by modulating the immune system and also by competing for size and nutrients. Looking into the diversity, functionality, and composition of such a wide community, it's important not just for having a better understanding of the gut microbiota, but also to know how to shape it in order to improve health well-being. There are several factors able to impact gut microbiota composition and so functioning. First of all, external factors such as genetic, environment, age, diet, drugs. Of course, we don't have time now to go through all of them, but I have brought a few examples that I really found interesting to share with you. In a recent paper, scientists have looked into the association among the gut microbiome, the memory performance, and the age in dogs. What they have seen is that in older dogs, there were fewer fusobacteria, while better memory performance were associated with a lower proportion of actinobacteria. So indeed, these scientists were able to show and support the existence of a link between gut microbiota, age, and cognitive performance in dogs. It has been already several years since scientists started to look into the impact of the diet on the gut microbiota composition, functioning, diversity. And this study is a very recent one. It has been published in 2021, and authors, they have looked into the influence of the diet on the gut microbiome of dogs and cats. What they have seen is that the major shift in the gut microbiota composition, it comes from the major shift in macronutrients composition and starch, protein, and fiber content of the diet. So it was already well recognized, and it's even more well recognized that the gut microbiome is respondent to changes in the diet. But this scientist was able to show also that the changes associated with disease have a greater magnitude. And so in this case, in the case of disease, we can, through dietary change, by supplementing prebiotics and probiotics, be beneficial to the animal, to the dog in this case, by improving their microbial diversity and metabolite production. And indeed, prebiotics are widely used in pet nutrition. They are usually FOS, SOS, inulin, a lot of usage also of monoligosaccharides from Saccharomyces cerevisiae strains. But I want to show you an innovation on the market of yeast, which is an association of specific strain of yeast. It's a synergistic alliance of specifically selected and activated yeast strains that has been combined in order to reinforce the immune system and support dogs' gut health. I'm glad to show you here just a few preliminary results in which such a synergistic alliance of yeast strains has been shown to be able to increase significantly the beneficial population like bifido and lacto, and also to increase the IgA fecal content. So it was really able to show the immunomodulatory and digestive care benefits. We've seen some external factors able to really impact the gut microbiota, but there are some other factors that are in a sort of reciprocity relationship with the gut microbiota. It means they are able to impact the gut microbiota composition and functioning, but in turn, they are somehow affected by the gut microbiota composition. And I'm not talking just about gastrointestinal disorders, acute or chronic, but also about the disease that are beyond the gastrointestinal tract. Obesity, central nervous system disorders, diabetes, atopic dermatitis, and let's take a look at a few of them. Scientists have shown that an abundance in Prevotellacea in the gut is linked to a reduced risk of immune-mediated brain disease. But it's quite interesting to see that just last year, it has been used a canine model by scientists to look deeper in the gut-brain axis in the neurodegenerative disease in humans. So it has been shown a real similarity between dogs and humans. Obesity is another big concern. The percentage of obese dogs is increasing year after year. And scientists are looking into the differences between obese and lean dogs to see if there is any correlation between the microbiome. Atopic dermatitis is the last example I want to bring here. Atopic dermatitis, as all the skin disease, may be seen as a topic manifestation of a more systemic problem related to gut dysbiosis and increased gut permeability. There are some research in the looking into the difference between the fecal microbiota of humans with atopic manifestation versus control people. And it has been also seen that antibiotic systemic treatment are able to increase atopic manifestation, probably due to the impact antibiotic has on the gut microbiota composition. And it has also seen that intervention through the diet are able to somehow improve the atopic manifestation, and it can be done by improving the diet, by optimizing the nutrient intake, by avoiding certain food, minimizing stress, which is recognized to have a negative impact on gut integrity. And of course, also the supplementation of pre and probiotic that are able to shape the gut microbiota positively is seen as a possible way to improve atopic manifestation. And here I want to show you this study in which scientists are looking to the effect of an early exposure to Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG in Beagle, which is a breed quite prone to atopic dermatitis. And they have seen that this probiotic was able to partially prevent atopic dermatitis in the first 6 months of life. Well, we have seen some external factors. We have seen some disease and how they are able to impact the gut microbiota composition and functioning. But there is really another important factor in a reciprocity relationship with the gut microbiota, and that is the stress and anxiety. Stress is anxiety are really a big concern for pet owners. The pet owner really loves his dog, loves his cat, and has a strong bond with them. They are kind of family members like kids. So pet owners want to see them living longer, but also healthier and happier. And here you can see some of the signs of anxiety in pets, such as excessive barking or lip licking or body shaking. So a lot of different signs that not always are well recognized by the pet owner. So sometimes are underestimated. But stress is recognized to have a negative impact on the gut integrity. Stress has been studied by scientists that have seen that it is really able to impair the intestinal barrier, to change the gut microbiota composition, so to have a negative impact. And they have seen it by studying the importance of the microbiota in germ-free mice. So mice that has been born and raised in a sterile environment, so in a germ-free environment. I will show you here just a few studies that have really supported the evidence of the importance of the gut microbiota in the management of stress. In 2006, it has been demonstrated that the probiotics are able to improve the intestinal barrier function in rats under chronic physiological stress. Well, in 2013, it was amazing that scientists was able to show that switching the fecal microbiota of mice with different behavior, they were able to switch their behavior. And just 1 year after, scientists was able to show that 2 hours of social stress is enough to significantly change the community profile. So those results, those evidence are quite amazing. And the question now is how this is ever possible. And the answer is the brain-gut axis, such a complex communication that not only ensures the proper maintenance of the gastrointestinal homeostasis, but is also likely to have multiple effects on affect, motivation, and higher cognitive functions. Its role is not just to monitor and integrate the gut function, but it's also to link the emotional and cognitive center of the brain to the intestinal function and mechanisms such as immunoactivation, intestinal permeability, enteric reflex, and enteroendocrine signaling. In 2010, it has been proven the positive impact of 2 probiotic strains on the gastrointestinal disorder of people under psychological stress. And thanks to several other studies, I don't have time here to show, but you can see here a few of them, in 2013 has been coined a new term, psychobiotics, to refer to those probiotics that are able to give health benefits in patients under psychiatric illness. Thanks to all these studies, I'm proud to tell you that in 2016, Lallemand has been able to have the first and unique brain-gut axis claim approved by the Canadian Health Authority. You probably wonder, well, what about pets then? Well, in pets, as already said, the anxious behavior and the stress are quite a concern. There is a quite interesting recent ProPlan veterinary supplement survey in which it has been seen that around 62% of dogs, they suffer of behavioral disorders. And as I told you, these numbers are somehow underestimated because pet owners are not always able to recognize symptoms and signs of anxiety, and sometimes they're not able to admit their dogs suffer of any stress of anxiety because they would feel guilt of it. And because of that importance and that concern, scientists are really looking into this topic, and the research around behavioral disorders and their possible correlation with the gut microbiome is booming. Here you can see just a couple of papers published in the last couple of years in which scientists were looking into the correlation between gut microbiome and behavioral disorders. And as you see, there is a lot of attention around the aggressivity, so the aggression, dogs that have this aggressive behavior that, of course, are a big concern whenever the dog lives with you. And honestly, there is not really a reply, an answer, a clear understanding on why it happens. But interestingly, a scientist has been able to show that an aggressive behavioral problem is really linked to peculiar gut microbiome structure. So they have seen such a correlation, and they have been able also to conclude that it's possible to adopt probiotic interventions in order to restore, to balance again the microbiome, and in this way to mitigate the behavioral disorders. The last study I want to share with you is a study in which scientists have looked into the effect of a specific probiotic, Bifidobacterium longum, on reducing the anxious behavior in Labrador retrievers. And they have seen that 90% of the dogs supplemented with the Bifidobacterium longum, they were showing an improvement in the day-to-day anxious behavior. So those dogs, they were barking, jumping, spinning, and pacing less than the control dog. Moreover, they have looked also in some physiological parameters such as cortisol and heart rate, and they were able to conclude that both from a behavioral and psychological standpoint, Bifidobacterium longum had an anxiolytic. Well, my take-home message for you is, first of all, that we are seeing that the gut health is crucial for the overall health and well-being, and that the gut and the brain are in constant communication and through in a highway, let's say, a highway of chemical and hormones called the brain-gut axis. But there are several factors that are able to impact the gut microbiota composition and functioning, and that are in turn impacted by them. But we have some tools, we have functional ingredients such as prebiotics and probiotics that have demonstrated to be able to positively shape the gut microbiota. So we can conclude that shaping the intestinal microbiota is a way to improve pets' overall health and well-being. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm available for any question you may have. Thank you very much.